I was thinking some of these questions seem to be pushing into what Sally was laying the groundwork for, which was she was really pushing at our understanding of church leadership or being in a community in some pretty provocative kinds of ways, and saying some pretty provocative things. And so a lot of the illustrations and conversations we're having are around practices and ways of going about this, which I think are really helpful. I think Sally was being a bit more of a disruptive presence in terms of the things he was pushing at. Mm-hmm. And I see some of these questions coming up, and I think they all connect. So I'm wondering if for those who have seen that part, which is the second video, what is this? What are the implications of this beyond the billboard metaphor image for leadership? And what does that look like on the ground? And perhaps there's, maybe it's you and Danny and Mark, you want to have some comments around that. But what are some of those ways that Sally's been pushing us to really question some of, and also embrace some new practices and ways of living into leading and pastoring in some quite different ways.
Well, I like the way that she, as she says, she's a professor, she's a philosopher, but she's not even a normal philosophy professor, right? She does this stuff, and part of it is she's in a mixed economic, ethnic community, and so her students are that, and she connects beyond the classroom. But simply the way she thinks about that network, that world, is informed by both the world and her faith, right? So while it's a Baptist tradition, most Baptists wouldn't recognize all that Sally's doing. She's not paid by the church. Our pastor, her main job is she works with a transition center for homeless families. And so that's really her day in and day out life with our neighborhood and our neighbors. And that changes how she sees and connects and leads us because of the relationship she has, and therefore what kind of connections she makes with us.
That's a huge issue, Mark, in that, and it's kind of the skeleton that we don't want to talk about, is that a lot of this, to use Sally's metaphor of the billboard, is about class. It's about middle class Christians and churches who have a certain view of a minister. And we're never going to get past this until, frankly, we stop this thing about full-time paid clergy. That's a huge one. The other one, for me, about practice is it's the notion of the local as the soil in which we live. And most middle-class churches see it as the opportunity for them to do something for people. And so how do leaders demonstrate a fundamentally different stance, not doing for, but being gardeners in a soil and living in a soil? To me, these are some critical pieces.
Yeah, I'd agree. I've never, well, it's been a long time since I was full-time employed by church, but I still have been, in the vernacular Christian professional. My salaries generally come either there. I was dean of an African-American Bible church not far from Danny's church, and now as a professor in a seminary. But my church life, then, what that does is it frees me to be a neighbor in the neighborhoods, where I bring the resources and I benefit from my employment. And so historically, and still in some places, we look to people like Danny, where we've got the benefit of somebody who really, we're saying, do this theology for us, right? Mess with us, tell the stories, tell the Bible stories, tell the neighborhood stories, listen to us, which is what you do. But I'd also agree with Alan that I'm seeing increasingly that Danny's unusual in that he's able to do this even though he is full-time salaried. Most people I'm finding who are full-time salaried get so locked into other habits that this becomes not the normal pattern.